Welcome to Women's Wealth, the podcast with me, Joanne. My mission is to educate, inspire, and empower you all to step into your own life of wealth. That feeling of being so rich in your mind, body, and soul. I'm so happy to have you here. Let's get straight into it. Hello, wealthy women. Welcome back to another episode of Women's Wealth with Joanne. And I have an amazing and really interesting guest with me today. And I think it's slightly different to what we normally talk about. And this one is definitely for the mums out there. I know a lot of you listening are mums, if not most of you. So this is going to be one for you that's really going to help you have a different perspective, I think. I have Kathy Bowers with me today. She is a parenting, teen and life coach. So for those of you with teenagers who are tearing your hair out, this is for you today. So welcome, Kathy. How are you?
Hi, Joanne. Thank you for inviting me. I look forward to this podcast and to be able to speak and share some of my knowledge with the guests.
Yeah, thanks for coming. And I think so. We had just had a brief chat, and today I might put my school teacher head back on as well, because some of the things that Kathy will cover today, I can also talk about from a school teacher's perspective. So we'll get into that, but I feel like I might swap hats for a few times today as we're chatting. So Kathy, tell me a little bit about yourself before we begin. So how did you step into this role? What's your background?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm a parent of 3 adults now and 2 grandchildren, 16 months and 7 years. So it's nice being a grandma this way round. It's less responsibility. It's just all pleasure now. I got into the role from the age of 16, starting off as a nursery nurse, working in schools, nurseries, nannying, day and living in nannying, agency work, children's homes, special needs schools. So everywhere children and parents were involved, that's where I went in. And then I wanted to sort of progress as you go along. And I thought I've been doing this for a long time. So I joined social services and children's services. And I went in and trained as a family support worker and then a senior family support worker, which meant I went and worked with the families in the home. And originally they were really short pieces of work, like someone was stuck with a boundary. How can I get my children to go to bed, stay in bed? How can I help my teens with their see the value of doing their homework and stuff? And it was maybe no more than 2 or 3 weeks, and then I was out, and we never saw the families again. But social care decided this is a good team. There was 29 of us at the time. Let's use them for the high-end risk ones, because they can go in, be our ears and eyes, feedback to us, and we can put all that information on our reports that go to court. So we were getting more and more. And as I was the senior family support worker, and then I turned into a family practitioner, I was getting the real high cases. And it was okay, but they were entrenched. The same pattern was working again and again, even though they'd had other children removed. And I thought, this isn't really doing much. They keep asking for our advice, but it's like anything. If you agree with someone, you do it. If you don't agree, you just sit there and don't do it. So I trained as a coach, performance coach, 2018. I brought that into the mix, and I said, right, I'm not giving you my advice or things. It's now in your lap, full responsibility. I'll ask you questions. You can ask me anything you want. But the change happens from you, from within. And although they didn't like it, we had 70% change, which was really great. But I was disillusioned because when I first started 20 years with social care, I maybe worked with a family who was entrenched for a year, another one for 6 months. It was specialised individually for those families. When I became a parenting practitioner, we were now told 6 weeks is your limit, cut off And I said, what happens then? Oh, we put them somewhere else. I said, but this is the service they need. So where are you going to put them if you're not going to do this service? You're just going to do the tick box, aren't you? And they said, oh, well, some of them you might have 3 weeks extra. So I just thought, no, I can do more on my parenting, which I do online now. And I work with parents online who have been through, tried everything. They're in a comfortable place with themselves and they just want to improve communication, how they get on well with their children, improve family life, bring harmony back. And that's what we do now. And it's all online coaching. And I do mentoring as well for the teens, because obviously teens want to have their say. So that again is online with the parents. But they're all for 2-hour sessions and they're fortnightly and they go over a period of three months. So it's plenty of headspace for once, that you've got a 2-hour headspace for you just to really think about what you need to do, put your actions in after you've found the options, and then progress like that.
I love that. And I think just taking it out of, social services, children's services as well, have you found that, because that they kind of have a bad onus, don't they? People dread social services, children's services. So did you find that automatically parents may have a defense up, even though you're there to help, but coming in as a coach and a mentor, it doesn't have that same, expectation? They don't think you have to, tell them they're bad parents. Do you find that makes
it's totally different, because the ones when I worked in social care, they had mental health issues, they had all sorts of things going on, financial, in a bad relationship, you name it, or lack of parenting. So it was more in a counselling role as well you were doing, you were directing them to go and see people. Whereas when you're doing coaching, people have already established, or they should, be in a better place. But what I do in my first coaching session, I'll always say to the parent, because it's individual parenting, because I don't want 2 parents, because obviously they're brought up differently, they have conflicts. So, it's just one. They can share the sessions 3 and 3 if they wanted to. But I always ask for them, where are you at? What's going on for you? Because nowadays, we don't have the luxury of staying at home and not working. Everyone's working. And having a parent, being a parent, that's a full-time job in itself. And that's 24/7. But then you've got the other role of your work. And let's face it, I don't know very many people actually go to work thinking, I love my job, this is a brilliant job. No, we're going there because we've got the wage coming in, which is security. We've got holiday pay, which is security, and sick pay, But the work environment, I found it in myself, how it's changed over the years. You've got bullying, you've got all sorts of things going on, and pressure. And you bring, not many people have learned to say to their boss, hold on a minute, I'm doing this amount of work, I can manage this, but what you're now putting on me, I can't manage. So it will impact on the work I already have. So you're not going to get a good all-rounder.
Yeah.
And, learning to say, stop. And we also, again, we can say, this is our contract. We work 9 to 5, 9 to 6. And we don't work weekends, but we don't say that. And then because we feel embarrassed or we're not coping, we think someone else next to us is doing okay, and they're probably just in the same mess. We bring that work home. So that eats into our private personal life and our relationship with our time with our kids. Then we have it on the weekends as well, we're taking it. So we're so stressed out and we're not sleeping properly because you've got all these things milling in your head. So you're burning out, and it's just impacting on your well-being, your emotional well-being, your mental health for yourself. And that shows with how you're able to show empathy to your kids, look at what's going on with your kids. You're just burnt out, so you probably just stick the TV on. You don't want to engage with anybody. You just want to escape.
Yeah. And I feel like, you just hit the nail on the head, that it's having those two, it's like everyone's living 2 lives, isn't it? And, we're only we're here for one. but everyone has two. You have your home life and your work life, and it is becoming more increasingly difficult to separate the two. Where do you start? So if you're working with a family, so you ask the mum or the dad, you know, where are you at? What do you find is the biggest block with them then? Do you think it is time, that spending quality time with their children, or time to talk to them? Like where's the missing link between the two lives that we're living?
Yeah, I think they're so stressed and they're burnt out. They haven't even really realised that they haven't engaged fully with their kids. They think that it's like robotic movements they're doing. You know, they think, oh, I come home, I've earned the money, because this money puts a roof over their head, put foods on the table, clothes, blah, blah, blah. So that's a big, important thing. But they're missing the point, because like we knew when COVID came and everyone was stuck at home a lot, you had the family there as well. So you started to realise that your kids were around and they needed more. They needed your emotional support. So it's the lack, really, of having that time. First of all, quality time for you. You need to have a space in the day that gives you time so you can switch off from what's going on with your problems of work or whatever that's happening, just to clear your head a bit so that you can absorb and think more sort of rationally about steps you need to take to make those life changes to improve your quality of life for yourself. And therefore, if you do it for yourself, you're doing it for your family as well. And then being able to say to yourself, right, when I come home, my children are always my priority. They should always be number one in your life, wherever you are. But when I come home, it's now the hat goes on for mum or dad. I'm not at work now. This is family life I'm involved with. And you need to make time to really get to know all your children. And you've got to have quality time individually with each of them, as well as a family unit. And you've got to do that every day, whether it's a little bit, you know, and you plan that and you make that with the use of having proper routines and boundaries that can help you with those, that journey, really.
Yeah, and do you find that parents realize that they need to do this when it's just a little bit too late? So, you know, they have that realization of, oh my God, they think they have a troubled teen, or they're arguing, or, you know, argumentative. Do you find that that's what it takes for the parents to reflect and think, okay, well, you know, what's going on here? And
yeah, sometimes when they're coming in and they find that the kids are seem to be ruling the household and they're not listening, you know, it can be young ones as well. It doesn't have to be teens. It can be, I mean, I've seen some toddlers that are 2 and 3 years old and are ruling the house. And I'm just thinking, what is going on, you know? And you see the poor mum running around saying, I can't do anything with her. And I said, where's your routine? It's no routine. There's no saying no to this child. You can't do this. This is time. You're going to bed now. You're having your nap, or, you know, whatever. And they just sort of fold in and say, I can't cope. But that's also, I think, to do with the pressure of what's been going on for them as parents and adults that they haven't sorted out themselves. So they're vulnerable, you know, and they probably feel a failure. And lots of parents, especially mums, have said, I said, where's your routine and your boundaries? What's going on? They said, oh, I don't want to tell them off. Tell me mine. Because if I tell them off, they won't like me. They won't love me. They'll stop loving me. And I want to be their friend. And I go, first of all, you are their parent. You'll never be their friend. You'll always be their mum and dad. They'll have friends over the years. They'll make friends. But you are their number one priority, their mum and dad. And they're looking at you for guidance. And that's why you have to give them the right guidance to show them how to handle their different emotions and things, and know the structure, because routines put in the structure. You have it at school, like you're saying, you know, a teacher. That works well because, and we have structures at work. We have structures and routines in all parts of our life. So it's nothing new. And it's just to make it roll like a well-oiled, you know, cog, really. And it helps. And the children learn. They think, oh, great. well, I know I'm going to get fed 4 times a day. I know when breakfast is, and it helps they know that, so they don't get anxious, because some children have food things and they get very anxious if they're not being fed regularly, especially if they've been without for a long, long time. Or I know my bedtime routine, you know, at what time I have to have a shower and go to bed, what's expected of me. And it's all the rules and the boundaries that your expectations, your parents have shown you, this is the right way to behave. This is what I expect from you. You know, when we go out, say, for example, I don't expect you to run across the road on your own. I don't expect you to run mad in a supermarket and climb up the supermarket aisles and get the trolley and whiz round and knock people, you know. So it's all expectations that are manageable, and you're showing them and you're giving them that security because they know, oh, this is how I should behave. You're teaching them to fit in with society in the right way.
Yeah. And all of the things that you've just said there, it is, you know, it might be that you don't turn out to be their friend, but just bedtime routines. You know, as an adult, you need to know that you brush your teeth, you have a shower, you know, you need to get into bed at a reasonable hour. And as a school teacher, when I was teaching the evening routine, and I was a secondary school teacher as well, and you know, the teenagers, they'd come in so tired in the morning, and you know, what time did you go to sleep? And we were in school by 7:30. Some of them would say 4 a.m. So like, what, you've had 2 hours. So if you broach the subject with the parents, it was, you know, first of all, you had to be very careful of, you know, what is their evening routine. But it always used to shock me that a lot would say, oh, they just go up into their bedroom and then that's it.
Yeah.
You know, they eat their food, their tea, their dinner in their bedroom. I wasn't allowed to eat upstairs. So for me, it's still, even as an adult, I do not take food upstairs. It's drilled into me from my mum. But it would blow my mind that they would get home from school, throw their school bag down, and then that's it. They would see their mum and dad again in the morning when they were waking up. And then it would answer all of my questions as to why, you know, they'd come to the classroom and they'd be tired. They wouldn't open their bag. They wouldn't get their pencil case out, their book out. They'd be late, you know, and all from this bedtime or getting home from school / bedtime routine. It's obviously so important. Where do you start with parents that may be listening to this and have a routine and might be struggling with it, or are listening to this and thinking, oops, I'm guilty of that it's just kind of a free-for-all in the evenings?
Right. I mean, when you make a routine, you include all the children, you know, you're discussing, because you can't just put something in without telling them why it's there, what's beneficial. You want their feedback and input, and you want to obviously put things in, for example, if they don't do it, same with the boundaries, if they don't do it, there are consequences, and there's also rewards. So, you know, you think about what could the consequences be, what would the rewards be, and everyone pulls in the ideas. Routines are simple. Keep them simple. Keep them flexible so that they can bend, and you're not rigid with them. But so once you've got, say, the bedtime, the usual day routine, you know, you're going to bed, getting ready for school, leaving the house for the right time, doing your homework, whatever, things like that. Once they've done that, and you know it's automatically going on, if there's something else that's not working, you can put that in, you know, afterwards. One of the things which I really think routines should be now, for example, is encourage your children to eat with you at a table, have breakfast. Right, mum might not want to have a full breakfast, but it doesn't matter. You can still sit there and have a cup of tea with your kids while they're eating. You know, have an evening meal where it's time you can talk. But by doing this, you have to, as adults as well, get your mobile phones, put them on silent, and put them, I don't know, in a basket on the worktop somewhere. And don't bring mobile phones to the table, because what you see in the house is you've got all the family, adults included, going like this with the phones all the time, looking. No one's, you know, you've got the TV maybe on, and no one's communicating. So,
Yeah.
and the children, like you're saying, the teenagers love it. They've got TV in their room usually. They've got a computer or a laptop or an iPad in their room, and they take their phones. All electronic gadgets. Don't have any of them in the bedroom. Bedroom is for relaxing, reading a book, sleeping, or listening to some music on headphones until you go off to sleep and chill. That needs to be out. Because otherwise the teenagers, I mean, when mine were, they put the phone under their pillow. So they won't be sleeping because subconsciously they're hearing the pings and they're listening, and they're talking rubbish half the time anyway. There's no big conversation going on. It's not, so they can see that friend in the morning and have a proper conversation about it, what they wanted to talk about or a plan. So it's vital that all the electronic gadgets the parents now tell the children, by such and such, this goes off. You're not using them after a certain time. I mean, I saw an ad recently on EE now. They're going about shutting off the Wi-Fi for the kids. Why they hadn't done that years ago, I don't know. But I'm glad it's happening now, because that's what you've got to do. You don't have little ones, for example. You see them on the phone, watching their little toy kiddies programs. Why do they need that? Or why do you have to have the television with CV channels on 24/7? No, when I was working in the nurseries and things, we had specific times when the children could come in, they had to sit down, and then they could watch the film that was on, and it was like maybe half an hour, then it would go off, and they'd go off downstairs and they'd get on with doing other activities. But if you have it on 24/7, the kids aren't paying attention. They're getting distracted. They're going all over the place. So what's the point? And you're not developing, I mean, some of them language, or lack of language, should I say. No wonder some of them don't have got full sentences and conversations, because they're not interacting. This is a static form of interaction. It's not talking back to you, is it?
Yeah. I was actually talking to somebody the other day, and I was on the cusp of, I had a mobile phone, but there was no social media, no internet on the phone. Right. It was just texting. And I feel very lucky that, we would eat at the table every evening. The kitchen door would shut. We couldn't see the TV. We weren't allowed to sit in the living room and eat. It was all at the table. But me and my sister used to have the best time. My mum would be there, dishing out, and it was real family time. Yes, of course, we were teenagers and we'd go upstairs and, then put the music on. But I'm glad that I didn't have that instant connection and to everyone else. I was at home, I was with my family. If I wanted to speak to my friends, I'd go into my mum's bedroom. I'd have to use the landline. It wasn't all instant. And even just some of those things, having to speak to another adult, is Lucy there? Can I speak to Lucy? Mm-hmm. Because now I find, especially when I was teaching, children don't know how to speak to other adults either.
No.
And constantly with their heads in iPads. And I was walking in the shop for shopping the other day, and there was a mum on her phone, and both of her children had iPads, not looking in any of the shops or doing anything else. And I just felt like it was so sad. But then I don't have children, so I was like, okay, I can't judge because, but they weren't kicking and screaming. They were just, nearly walking in.
It's like robotics, isn't it? They're like robots. But that's the opportunity. You take your children out and you show them where they live. You show them their environment, and you talk to them. So what colour is the sky? And you teach them the shapes. And can you look in the shops? Have you seen anything that's a shape of a triangle in this window? And just really, giving them opportunities. And I don't understand why Saturday, for example, is mayhem with bringing your children to do your shopping in the supermarket. If there's two of you and one's at home, why can't you just leave the children there and the other go and do the shopping quick? And then make another time where you purposely take your children out to the supermarket, where you say to them, come on, if you don't want them to have too many sweets anymore, so let me find you something you might enjoy. What about trying the grapes? And you walk around the shop and you show them what's going on, and you show them the fish, and so they get to learn. oh, it's not all from a packet. This is where food comes from. I mean, a number of times the kids used to say, where does milk come from? Oh, the bottle, or from Tesco's. No, it comes from an animal called a cow. Of course, they don't see cows, do they? They don't go out in the countryside and see all these animals anymore. And unfortunately, lots of them are battery run now, aren't they? Or sort of shut. So it's such a different concept that you really need to teach your children the importance of their environment and what's around. And, to see, oh, we put our dustbin out. Oh, that's a dustbin cart that comes round. This is where this goes. And you can get books that show you the picture books and things that explain. So it's really helpful. I mean, that's a vital thing. Join the library for your kids. Encourage reading, encourage their education that way and their knowledge, because a book is for life. You just learn all the time. But so many parents used to say, do you belong to the library? No. Why not?
That was the thing is when I was teaching, I would, parents would always ask or tell, how can we get them to read at home? Well, have you got a choice of books? No. And I was like, well, they're your first problem, because you need reading books. And they're like, oh, we just let them read on the iPad. And I was like, okay, but then they have this electronic device, and are you going to stand over them and make sure they are reading, or are you going to, they're probably going to play on their iPad and go on the internet. Just interrupting this episode to remind you to please like, subscribe, drop 5 stars if you enjoy listening to my podcast. It really does mean the world to me. And also to remind you, you can now watch every episode on my YouTube channel. Head to YouTube, type in Joanne Wellth, and I'll see you there. So what advice do you give to parents? Because I always felt stuck. Obviously, they're coming to you as a coach and a mentor. As a teacher, I always used to, I can't say too much, but then they're asking. And I was always sort of, I don't want to insult them by stating the obvious.
Yeah.
What do you say when you're coaching and mentoring parents then who are point blank saying that they cannot get them off the iPads? They cannot, they're stuck with the technology. How do you advise parents? Because I know a lot of people listening to this, because I know my friends with children are like, they're always on that thing. And I'm like, you're in charge. But
yeah.
So how do
you do. You have to literally put your foot down and explain to them, from now on, this is the time limit of your electronic games, your iPads. But you have to be able to show them that you're doing the same thing with your phone or your laptop. You'll say, right, all of us, in the family, will be doing it. It's going off at certain times. And, you can't have them, for example, until you've done your homework. Then I will limit you a time for it. But then it goes off way before it's bedtime. So it's not 24/7. They might not like it, but they say, well, the option is we do it this way, or I completely take it away. So which is the option that you would prefer? But you have to be firm. You have to be consistent. Yeah, if you haven't had that structure in place, they're going to kick up and they're going to push and they're going to try and weigh you down. That's when you have to be consistent. That's where consistency comes in. With the thing is, these are the rules. This is what I have decided for you, and I've told you why it's beneficial for you. And this is it. This is what's going to happen. End of story. So, your choice is, you have that specific time where you can enjoy it. But if you keep on and you're not going to do it, if you're breaking the rules, then we just take it away until you learn that you're going to comply with what we've said, because there are rules in life. There's, that we have to manage and accept. Law, isn't it? We don't like it, but there's reasons why it's there. And you've just got to be firm. I mean, when you have your rules in place and your boundaries, you either say to the children, no, they know what the word no means, or yes, you can have it, or maybe. And when they do the maybe, it's not yes or no, it's maybe. You're thinking about it. You're going to come back with that. But lots of people use a maybe as a no or a yes, and it's not that. It's maybe we're thinking about it. Let's see. Let's talk about this a bit further. Let's explore it.
Yeah. And I feel, again, just from a teacher's point of view, that would be so beneficial, because sometimes teachers and parents, I feel like they're, instead of working together, it's more of it's a battle. And I know that teachers want parents to do more, parents want teachers to do more, but just having those boundaries in place means that when I ask them at school, obviously I don't do that anymore, but if I say, can you put your phone away? That boundary of mine is also respected because they have that same boundary at home. And just those little, little nuances. You do this at home and it's reflected in school, and then you're going to have, a better experience at school as well. And a teacher's not going to be calling home as much.
I mean, I know in school now that they take the phones off and they don't get until the end of play. And let's face it, little ones, why do they need to have a mobile? Mum or dad's dropping them off and collecting them, or grandma's collecting them. They're not having a social, things like that. And when I did mentoring with older teens, some of the things, if they weren't complying with what had been agreed on that specific 2-hour session, because they came in, the parents, they have 3 things that they maybe wanted to discuss with their parents that they didn't like what the parents were doing or saying, and vice versa. So they went round and shared it. But one of the things was mobile phones, to be taken away for a while if they weren't coming home at a certain time, or replying to their parents to say where they were, and they've got this mobile phone. And I can always remember this child. He had everything. I mean, he had £30 a week pocket money from his family. Yeah. And they also bought him everything. They also gave him money to go out and enjoy his friends, see his friends. And I'd say to the dad, how much have you got at the end of the week after you've paid all the bills? He said, £3. And I said, but you're doing everything. And what does he do in the house? Well, he doesn't do anything. They were even cleaning his room. 17-year-old, they were even cleaning his room. And I just thought, well, this is madness. So anyway, he had this mobile phone, and they said, well, you got into a bad crowd. We want you back at such and such a time, and we're going to take your mobile phone away. And he went, no, you can't do that. I said, oh, yes, we can. And they said, so we have it now. And they said, what we're going to, and they gave him a Nokia, basic Nokia phone. And they said, well, what's this? And he said, this is for you to contact us and we to be in contact with you. And you can text your friends, but that's it. That's what you're having from now until we see something being pulled up, And we're also stopping your £30 allowance, because we've got to realise now that you've got to do things for yourself, like you clean your room, you put your stuff in the washing machine. You're old enough. You help mum when she comes back from the shop. You help her unload the car with the shopping. And he was a lovely, lovely boy. And he changed. He started to do it, and he realised that he'd slipped the wrong way around. And it was so nice because his younger brother of 11 said, oh, I've got my nice big brother back now. Because they always used to talk, but when he got into the wrong crowd, he wasn't,
Yeah. And in that case, so did the parents' lack of boundaries before he got into the wrong crowd also haven't, if they already had those routines in place, those expectations, I'm guessing it would have ended up differently, or he may never have even gotten into it.
What happened, he was the perfect child for a long time, so they never really felt they needed to have strict structure or boundaries. He knew, he was bright, he knew when the meals were and all this, and he was just doing fine. But then he got to the teenage stage, and he had a plan. He wanted to go to university, had it all planned. Straight A student he was, and still is. And he just got attracted to the wrong girl, a bad girl in a wrong crowd. That's how it went, And he wanted but he couldn't speak to his parents, his mum and dad, about things like that, because you don't usually, do you? And there wasn't anyone else he could say. So he just went into this crowd not realising then drugs were involved and things. And they saw him from, he was wealthy. They saw he had money. So of course they welcomed him. And in a way, he was buying himself into their thing with the money. Oh, I'll treat you to this, or I'll buy your ciggies, I'll do this, not realising that he was being used. And it was only, as I said, I saw him on 2 occasions, and then the 3rd occasion, could see he'd been smoking dope, because he was holding his head down, he was hardly waking up. I looked up and I said, what the hell have you been taking? What are you on? He said, I haven't been taking anything. I said, you're stoned out of your head. So don't tell me you haven't, because it was in the evening I was doing this session, so he'd come in from smoking straight into the session, and you could see it. And I went, no, your mum and dad have really got to put in the boundaries now, immediately, for you.
Yeah.
And then the next time, which was a fortnight later, I saw him, and he was much sparky-eyed and back to normal, and he just went, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
So how would you advise, so if someone's listening to this and, even not as an extreme case, how do parents open those initial lines of communication if they've never had them before? So if it's got to the point now where, things need to change and they need to speak to their child, teenager, what are the first things, especially if the teenager is very reluctant? So how do you advise parents to approach them, and what steps to take?
Right, I mean, you've got to obviously sit down, ask them to sit down with you, but you're not coming from a judgmental, pointing things. You let them know that we're having this conversation because I really love you and we really care about you, and we want to know what's going on, because unfortunately we haven't had much time to interact and get to know one another. And I want to make this change now, really want to help you and support you. So tell me about what's going on. I don't know really anything about you. And, it's important to get to know their friends, have information of where their friends live. I mean, loads of parents don't know contact numbers, addresses, anything. So that's vital to do that. And you explain to your child, this is why I'm doing it, because you can just listen to the news and all about the knife crime, and all about the gangs on the streets. There's so many, and distractions that can take you down the wrong route, and just play on their qualities. Say, I know you were interested in doing music or art or whatever it is tell me about you. Tell me about how you want to go from here when you leave school. What do you want to do? Do you want to work, or do you want to go to college? What's your dream? So you start opening up and letting them know that you're there for them now. You're sorry you weren't before, but now you are making a conscious effort of really being there, and they can come to you about anything, any problem. Nothing's too big. We can sort it together. You have family support here. So just really, it's how you speak to them. You're not ramming your opinions down their throat. You're letting them give feedback. Really listen to what they say. You might not like what they say. You might not agree with them. You might think, oh, they're talking a load of tosh. But don't say that, because you have to try and put yourself back in that age where you thought you knew it all and your parents were too old. They didn't know it. So give them kids are lovely. Teenagers are really nice and they're so helpful, but they need to feel that you've got their back.
Yeah.
And you're not going to sort of let them down. And you have let them down in the past. So they're probably thinking, well, why am I coming to you? You're never there beforehand. But you have to hold up your hand if that's the case and say, I realise in hindsight, thinking about how I was as a parent, I should have been giving you more, but I'm here now.
And obviously you have the inside, you speak to teenagers and children as well. What have you learned from them? What do they crave from parents?
Right, well, I did a survey a long time ago, but it was all the families and they had teenagers. So I thought I wanted to get a viewpoint of the teenagers. And I asked them, I said, what do you feel about boundaries and routines? Do you not like them? And they said, no, we want them, we need them. And I said, oh, I'm surprised to hear that. So I said, so are you having that in your family life? They said, no, we're forgotten about. The younger kids have sort of boundaries, but they're not consistent. They're sort of here and there, but we don't have any. And I said, so what would the difference be if you did have them in your family? And they said it would show that they cared, mum and dad really cared about us and wanted to know us. And they said, and having them makes us feel secure because we know they're, as part of family life, we can rely on it and we can use it to our advantage. And they said it's really important. I mean, when my youngest, he went off to a party. This was before we had mobiles, and he was going to a party, and it was put out on the internet, and it got flooded with people. He was 15, and the other people were in their late 20s coming in, and they completely invaded this house, and there was drugs, strong alcohol, full drink, everything going on. I mean, the people were even in the front garden. They couldn't all get in the house. And so he went into the kitchen to ask the parents if he could just phone up to get me to come and get him. And the parents were so drunk, they just went, no, you can't use the phone. They wouldn't allow him to use the phone. So he went back he found his friend whose party it was, and his friend was like, what's going on? It's a bit scary, this place. And he said, I just realised, look, is that the time? I've got to get home. I've got a routine that I have to be at home by such and such a time. And if I don't, I'm going to get grounded for a full week. So he used that as an excuse. It saved his face. And he walked back. It took him a good hour and a half to get home walking. And in the morning when he went back to school, his friend said, you were so sensible leaving. He said, we got raided by the police because of all this. And he said, the house got wrecked. And he said, that was a routine we've always had from when he was younger, about certain times coming in and bedtimes and whatever. And he was able as a teenager to use that to his advantage.
And it's obviously that kept him safe, but the routines are safety. And, right, you mentioned if dinner time, tea time, I call it tea time, but
yes, no, I do.
If tea time is 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock every night, that's safety. If you know that you have to be in by 9 p.m, you'll keep it, it's safety, because if you are out with your friends and you're past your curfew, then your, parents, then you're automatically alerted to, is something wrong?
It's horrible. It's worrying.
Yeah, so it stops that worry, and then your routine of waking up in the morning, you're not late for school, you have your breakfast, you're not hungry, and just these simple things that, they're not, they might be difficult to do if you're out of practice, you haven't set the routines. But just as an adult now, reflecting on those, how safe that feels, even in our own lives, I bet everyone listening to this has an alarm in the morning to go off. We don't just rely on waking up at the right time to go to work. No. We need routines. We need get up, put the kettle on, have coffee, have breakfast, we have our routines, and think how they make us feel safe. The same for children, for the teenagers. They need them to have that safety of knowing what's coming, when's it coming, what do I do if it doesn't come? So on and so on. It's that safety net, isn't it? That blanket of nothing, there's no surprises here.
Yeah. I mean, my youngest one, when he was coming up to 18, I said, I need you back at a certain time, because if you don't come back, I worry, and I have to get up for my job at 6 a.m. And if you're not back at a certain time, I don't get a good night's sleep, and then I'm wrecked by 6 o'clock, and then I've got to go off to work, blah, blah, blah. So I said, right, this is the time I expect you. Now, they had mobiles then. I said, if you're going to be 15 minutes late or something, phone me. If the bus is delayed or whatever, phone me, let me know. But if you're not back, I'm now going to lock the front door and I won't let you in. So it's a question of you come back beforehand or you don't. And if you're going to be late or whatever, then you have to stay over where you're staying. That's it. You let me know you're going to stay there, but that's it. So he would come back and he'd be like an hour, 2 hours late, and he'd be banging on the door. And I say, no. And his sister would come down and I said, if you want to be grounded, open that door. So she go, oops, and she went back upstairs. And so I didn't. So what he did was he went over the back into the garden, and it was a summer, and he was trying to get into the shed, but it was locked. But there was a plastic lounger outside, but obviously no bedding on it. Anyway, he lay down, went off to sleep, and I got up in the morning to make breakfast, and he heard me, and he came out, and I saw his face at the window looking very sad for himself. He had dew on himself. He was tired, and I didn't say anything. I just got on with my breakfast, and I made his breakfast without knowing it. And then I just opened the door, and I just went, come in, have your breakfast, have a shower, go to bed. I'm going to work. And I said, we'll talk about this later. When I came back, he was there, and he apologised. And after that, he always came back on time when it's expected. That never happened again.
Yeah, gosh, so would I.
Well,
I wouldn't be late again either at that.
Yeah, but I had to. But I'd explained to him. I said, it's horrible waiting and all these thoughts of what's gone on. Where's he been? Has he been, rough areas? He stabbed. I don't know where he's got. It's horrible.
Yeah, and it's that respect for your parents. I remember being 16 and reverse call. If I didn't have, I knew that I'd go to the payphone. I would reverse the changes.
Yeah,
and I would ring my mum, like, I am coming home, I'm at the payphone at the top of the road, making sure that she, I'm coming, out of breath, like, I'm running home now, but just to make sure, because
that's all it takes. You don't have to switch the mobile phone. It's mum and dad, you don't answer it. What's that about? That's not on, that's not respectful.
No, because that was it. I wouldn't want my mum worrying. Even now, actually, if I stay at my mum's, I'll message her, I'm like, I'm coming home now. And I'm an adult, and I'm just, letting her know where I am. Good. Yeah. So I love all of that. And I hope that people listening, sort of, you can take what you need, because there's obviously different extremes, isn't there? People without any boundaries, any routines, if you're just struggling to get those in, and I guess
put one in at a time, simple steps, one in at a time.
Yeah, and I think with the mobile phones and iPads, if you're a parent, you probably didn't grow up with that yourself. And I know that everyone over a certain age, maybe over 30, we didn't, especially iPads, we had old-fashioned mobile phones. I think everyone agrees that we had an amazing childhood without those, and we can see how damaging they can be. So just reflecting on that as well, as now an adult of, I think everyone says, I'm so glad that I didn't have social media when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
So
and also
out with that, and, letting them leave it alone for a little bit.
And also internet safety and security, because there's so many things going on, being groomed over the internet. So it's vital that if you have the laptop or the computer in a place in the home where parents can walk back and check. You don't want it in the bedroom, because you don't know what's going on. You don't know who they're speaking to. And if your children don't have anything to hide, they don't mind you saying, well, what side are you on? Get in touch with them. Be interested in what they're looking at, And same with the mobile phones. They shouldn't mind showing you who they're talking to in the mobile phones. If they do, there's something going on that you don't want to be happening. So you have to really be consistent. You've got no excuse not to check up on those things.
And again, that goes back, the internet is a big, scary place. And, would you send your teenager off into a room full of adults who can say what they want, look at their pictures,
Or would you as an adult go up to 3 or 4 houses up the road to someone you never knew, knock on the door and invite yourself in? Would you do that? Exactly.
It's, we wouldn't, and we kind of live behind the screen with the internet, but that's what it is, so reflecting on, if your child is in those, I don't know if chat rooms still exist or whatever they go on now, that it's an open world. It's all the men, women out there who you may not want them to meet in real life, but they're just behind the screen. So having that protection. And I have a niece actually who is 14, and I've had to sit down with her and tell her, certain things that she was posting on Instagram, and having a really upfront conversation with her of things that happen to girls, because to look at her Instagram, she looked 21, 22, and I saw her auntie, and I was like, oh my God, ringing my sister, and I had to sit her down and say, listen, I think I made her watch, there was a documentary that to literally just blow her mind of, this is what's out there on the internet. So yes, you're posting this and you think your 100 school friends are looking. She had an open profile, and I saw comments on there from fully grown men. I actually did send them a message. Do you realize you're messaging a 14-year-old girl? But having to scare her a little bit, because my sister hadn't put that boundary in, and I even had to say to my sister, as a teacher, I know what goes on. There's girls coming to school who are groomed. They have these, men who get into their heads and they don't see the wrong of it. So both my sister and my niece going back, in the summer and telling them both, it did work, and my sister did put that boundary in. Now she has the login, the Instagram's private, but just, that realization of, oh my God, there's, 40-year-old men commenting sexy on her picture, and she was only 13 then as well.
I mean, the thing is, when you look at the shows that are on the TV, or on, the kids are watching, the housewives, the Kardashians, they see all this, and it's a false world, but they believe everything they're seeing is real. They think that's it, and the same with on what they see online. And it's up to us, to parents, to sit down with something that they're enjoying, like Love Island, for example, or Swap Your Partners, and sit with them, and say, ask them, what do you think? Oh, I love this. So tell me why you love this. What's there to love about this program? And they'll also say, oh, he's so fit, he's with that. And then you explore it a bit more, because they're probably very young and they're getting totally sort of obsessed with this guy who's might have a nice body, but that's about it, and you really explore with them what they're seeing, and for example, this isn't a real world, I mean, the number of kids you ask, what are you going to do when you leave school? Oh, I'm not going to go to work. Why? I'm going to go on celebrity. I'm a celebrity. Get me out there. I'm going to become famous. I'm going to get. And you think, how many, people would do that, who will get on there, who would become famous out of it? They just don't realise that you've got to do things. You've got to work for things that are worth having, and it's fame doesn't come normally. It's like the number of people who are actors, but how many top actors have you got out of all the thousands of other actors? Only a small handful.
Yeah, it's very true. I'm so glad I'm not a teenager.
Although I knowledge now, it'd be good to have it as use it now for the teenager, but it's just part of life. I mean, the thing is, when you're growing up, you don't want to become what they call helicopter parents, where you do everything for your child, because the thing is, if you're doing their life, living your life through theirs, you're not encouraging them to make mistakes and correct those mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And if you're doing everything, then all of a sudden you say, right, you're on your own now. They won't know where to begin, because they haven't tried anything. They've got a fear. They develop low self-esteem with themselves. They don't have that confidence, because they haven't realised, I've tried this. Oh, that wasn't so bad. It didn't work out, but I've got myself up and I've got into this situation. I've gone a different way, and that's better. Yeah. You've got to be there. You've got to be there to support them, have their back, obviously, to make sure they're not going to go down the real hard, difficult, dangerous route, but allow them to explore, allow them to make relationships, do stuff. Don't laugh at them when they say, oh, I've got a girlfriend, I'm madly in love. Don't say to them, oh, well, the first love never works out. Talk to them confident. And if you don't like them with someone or being in a crowd, the worst thing you can do is really belittle that person, because you're just pushing them into the wrong arms.
Yeah. Very true. Oh, thank you so much for that. I feel like I'm armed myself, and I don't even have a teenager here. So if my listeners, whether for them or their teenager, I will put all your information in the show notes. Are you open for one-to-one? Are you doing groups? What's available to them at the moment to work with you?
I just do one-to-one online coaching and one-to-one online mentoring with the parents and the teen. But on my website, if you go to my website, I offer a free 30-minute exploratory session, which I can click onto and book. And that's for them just to tell me a little bit more about what's going on for them, what the issue is that they really want to resolve, find out a little bit more about myself and how coaching can work for them, and take it from there. If that's what they feel that it will work, and we can discuss. I've got 3 packages I offer for parents, and then 1 package for individuals with a specific goal they want to achieve. So yeah, I'm available at any time for them to get in contact that way.
Amazing. And I will put your website in the show notes, so
Thank you.
Everybody. Thank you so much for that, Kathy.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, amazing. And yeah, thank you for everyone listening. And yeah, I will see everyone again next week.